Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, flight simmers. This is PHKO-PHTO-HI25, and happy Sunday, everyone. I hope you're all having a good weekend so far as we're here in beautiful Hawaii this morning. Yes, we're finally into an area that isn't covered in snow, which is always nice to see. So today we're here in the Big Island of Hawaii itself. We're actually here at Kona Airport today because we have a very special trip here today. We're visiting our 10th national park. Yes, our 10th national park of the series and the end of part one of the series. So today we're here to cover our 10th national park, and the first one on the island state of Hawaii, that being Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Um, this park is actually pretty old, dating back to 1916. And yes, this area became a national park before Grand Canyon was. But this national park is really special due to the fact it covers two pretty major volcanoes here in the state of Hawaii. Kilauea, which is one of the world's most active volcanoes, and Mauna Loa, the world's largest shield volcano. And this place is amazing if you want to learn more about the studies of volcanoes and gives visitors a glimpse of the volcanic landscape. Really cool national park, rich history. It is a World Heritage Site too, UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. So very historic area. So that is what we're doing today. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone in chat. I hope you all had a great time. Of course. So here's our flight plan for this morning, by the way. So let's cover our flight plan this morning. So our flight plan this morning is going to cover. So yeah, we're basically flying around the Big Island today. So we're gonna start here from. We're gonna start and end in this airport, by the way. But we're gonna go from here. We're gonna travel northwest across the bay. We'll talk about the history of the place. Then from there, um, then we reach this waypoint here. So we're gonna go over here, of course. Then from there, we'll make our way to the National Forest Reserve, and then we'll climb up a lot because we're going to be visiting Mauna Kea. Now, if you guys don't know about this volcano, this is actually the tallest, which is actually the tallest point on the in the state of Hawaii. And what if I told you that this island, by the way, is actually if you count for its surface in the bottom of the ocean, it's actually taller than Mount Everest itself. Um, so yeah, very important mountain, of course. Then from there, we'll head up to our first stop at Hilo International Airport. So that will be our first stop of the day. Second stop flight will take us over to the eastern part of the park at Mauna Loa Lookout. We'll make a landing here, and we'll take a view of Mauna Loa, which is one of the volcanoes here in the peak. Then we'll go visit volcano, and we'll visit Kilauea. So we'll fly over Kilauea. We'll make a landing in one of the overlooks, of course. And then from there, we'll head over east for our second stop at Kaliki Airstrip, Hotel India 25. Then from there, we'll go back up, climb up the peaks again, and we'll make our way up to Mauna Loa itself. We'll make a landing right around the summit, and we get to see the volcano itself. Then from there, we'll go into the Mauna Loa Observatory. I know it's temporarily closed. We'll fly over the area, and then we'll fly our way back over to Kona Airport for our last stop of the day. So that is what we're going to be doing today. Plenty of volcanoes and stuff to talk about this morning. So of course we're taking the Savage Norton today. I thought it'd be a fun plane to take over. Plus we need all the short takeoff considering we're getting near volcanoes. Last thing we want is get stuck in the middle of a volcano. that is what we're going to do this morning. So here we go. We're gonna get the start. So a bit of a background for some of the news and stuff, and some backgrounds, of course. This morning, of course. So some bits of stuff I do want to talk about for a bit. Um, Next week's streams, of course, our next game day flight, by the way, is December 12th, and that is going to be Ajax and Feyenoord. So we're going to be doing that as our next game day flight. We never really didn't do much flying around the Netherlands, Benelux region, so that would be pretty interesting to fly over. And our next national park in the series after this is part 11. And yes, we're getting to the second part of the series. So our part 11 is going to be Lassen Volcanic, will be our next national park in the series. Another California national park. But this one, if you like volcanoes, then you're going to like Lassen too. So should be a really enjoyable flight. Go. And we're about to take off. So we're going to fly around it over to 1,000 feet. So we're going to head and fly over to 1,000. Going to fly our way there. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Hawaii Volcanoes National Park as we head our way over across our first leg. So let's talk a little bit about our national park we'll be covering today, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park here in Hawaii. So this national park located on the Big Island, the largest island in Hawaii, literally named Hawaii itself. The park encompasses two active volcanoes, Kilauea, one of the world's most active volcanoes, and Mauna Loa, the world's largest shield volcano. We'll talk about each of these volcanoes separately when we get to where they're at. But this national park is renowned worldwide for providing scientists with insight to the development of the Hawaiian Islands and volcanism. All visitors of the park will offer many dramatic volcanic landscape, glimpses of rare flora and fauna, and a view into traditional Hawaiian culture. This national park was originally established August 1st, 1960 as Hawaii National Park, which then was later split into two separate parks, one of which is Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and there's one more we'll visit later in our series, Haleakala National Park. In fact, this national park is special because it is a World Heritage Site. It became one in 1987 and became part of and was an International Biosphere Reserve. In 2018, the park was closed to the public in the Kilauea Volcano Summit area between the visitor center and park headquarters. However, as of early 2025, most of the national park is still open. However, some road segments and trails, as well as the Geography Museum of Hawaii Volcano Observatory, are still closed to visitors. As they were too damaged by the events in 2018 to be used further and were torn down. So as a result, there has been volcanic activity at Kilauea, causing a lot of the events to happen here at the airport. So we'll be mainly going through area here. So pretty important stuff. So that's definitely one of the pretty cool things about Hawaii volcanoes. And I have a link here too in chat if you guys are interested, but it covers this national park. So the environment of this national park is really unique compared to some of the ones we visited so far. Now, this park includes 354,000 acres of land. Around half the park is designated as a wilderness area in 1978, providing solitude for hiking and camping. And the wilderness designation provides cover for the northwestern extension of the park, including Mokuo-Waowao, the summit of the volcano Mauna Loa. In the southwestern portion of the park, there's also a large chunk of wilderness, which includes coastline and a small portion of the Southeast Visitor Center. This park encompasses diverse environments from sea level to the summit of Earth's most massive trout active volcano, Mauna Loa. And they range from lush rainforest to arid and barren desert. Recently erupted sites include the main caldera Kilauea, but also a more active remote vent called Pu'u'o. The main entrance for the park is located in the Hawaii Belt Road. The chain of crater road leads to the coast and passing several craters from historic eruptions, and the park has continued to another park entrance in Kalapana. But of course, that has been covered ever since by lava flow. Only available for emergency evacuation routes. So, pretty important stuff. And of course, the picture we've had of the volcano is Pu'u'o, which is part of the Kilauea volcano. We'll fly over that part. We get to Kilauea. Oh. Pretty cool stuff when we arrive here at the national park. So, well, that covers a little bit about our environment in the background of this national park. There isn't too many slides with this park, so we're just going to be doing some flying around the coast for. But some really beautiful sightseeing, of course, here. In fact, I wanted to get a picture of both these peaks. So yeah, this is definitely going into the Discord. That's where we're going with today. Continuing on with their National Park series. So, some pretty big stuff going on here with our national park and with some of our series as well. So right down to our left, we can actually see some golf courses. Yes, this area, Hawaii, has many golf courses, and this island in particular has some. And this is part of the Waikoloa Beach Resort. They got lots of volcano, lots of hotel buildings, and tons of golf courses. People like golfing. So yes, people love the golf. So that's going to be why people go in this area significantly. So in terms of other sports news, I do want to cover this morning, of course. Some pretty big stuff happened in quite a few other sports. Um, as for our game day flight between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Canadiens actually were victorious 2-1 over the Maple Leafs in a shootout, and it ended in a shootout matchup. Shootout. It was a win for the Canadiens. Threw themselves to 15-9-3 on the season for the Canadiens, continuing another nice start to the season for the Canadiens. But that's not even the biggest sports news from yesterday. Yesterday in college football, of course, yesterday was a big week for college football. Some pretty big games happened in there. But the biggest ones I want to talk to you about, of course, the Big Ten has a new conference champion. As for the first time since 1967, the Indiana Hoosiers have just won the Big Ten. Yes, Indiana, in just 2 years of Kurt Szigeti, has went Indiana from bottom dweller to Big Ten champion in just 2 years. Yes, Indiana, who's been known as one of the worst college football programs of all time, has actually won a Big Ten title. I haven't seen coaching this good since Bill Snyder left from Kansas State. But yeah, unbelievable campaign for Kurt Szigeti, man. He was already coach of the year last year. I think he's going to win again this year. And it was absolutely huge for Indiana to win the conference title. Indiana fans have been more deserving of success for decades. But yeah, Indiana's going to be the #1 team in the country and the #1 seed in the college football playoff. And I think they could be favorites to win the national championship. Concept I would have never even imagined happen. The other big college conference, Duke won the ACC championship. So yes, Duke football has won the ACC. And Alabama lost their conference title game. So yeah, Duke football having won the conference title. The first time since 1989. Been a long time. Their first solo championship in 63 years. Just nuts. Duke has had a title drought. Indiana's got a title drought of their own. So the playoff is going to be very interesting to see who they're going to be picking. And speaking of playoffs, the FCS playoffs happened. And down went North Dakota State. They lose to Illinois State in the FCS playoff. Yeah. Big losses there. And then, of course, for soccer, of course, in European competitions, Everton won yesterday. 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest. Massive win for the Toffees. That was absolutely a much-needed win for Everton. It was a much-earned win, the best, most complete win of the season for Everton. Absolute thrashing of Forest. Forest didn't really have much of a chance. And Liverpool actually then drew, so it worked out for the Toffees. Finally getting them into a European placement. Yes, it's hard to believe this. But Everton this season are actually placed fifths. Right, they're right now are in 5th place in the Premier League. 5th place Everton. Who saw this one coming? None of us did. They're even above Liverpool, who spent £400 million. Yeah, money can't buy you wins. Probably tell. Even crazier, Aston Villa's third despite their rough start. Absolute craziness going on right now. Pretty big stuff going on. That covers a bit about the sports news for this part this morning. But we're gonna climb to the 3,000 feet. We're gonna climb over some peaks. This is the PHKO-PHTO-HI25-PHKO Natural Area Reserve. So we're visiting this area. I wonder how much higher I'm gonna have to climb. 1,000 foot. I'm gonna go for 100. That's the nice thing about this plane is that it climbs really quick, so you don't have to really worry about all that. And then the last bit of sports news, Espanol are going to be playing Rayo Vallecano today for my Spain. Should be interesting to see how things go, of course. So, yeah, a lot of things has changed since the last playoff stuff. Crazy. So if I were thinking about the playoffs, of course, I think for the college football playoff, I think Indiana's definitely making it to the 1 seed. Ohio State should still get a good seed. Their only one loss is the best team in the country, so that's nothing to be ashamed about losing to the best team. Georgia should still get into the Big Ten SEC, so they're third seed. Texas Tech's going to get the 4 seed, the last bye seed is Texas Tech. And their first 12-win season ever. Then they said Oregon can make the playoffs. Ole Miss can make it, which I think Ole Miss definitely make it. I know it's tough losing Lane Kiffin, but I don't think it's even their fault. Ole Miss played really well this season. So it shouldn't really be their fault in the first place. So I don't think that should be the case. They said Texas A&M. I kind of understand Texas A&M, of course. I know they lost to Texas, but I think A&M should still be deserving of the playoffs. Final auto bid: James Madison to Tulane making the playoff. That's crazy. Should be very interesting to see what the college football holds. Hey, Devil Dude, good to see you doing the Pole Express. Nice. I hope you're going to be enjoying yourself, Devil Dude. We're going to be, we're in Hawaii today. We're going to be doing the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the national park's history, of course. Just briefly talk about this national park's history. On slide, Viper. This one. So Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, the history of this national park. Kilauea and Halima Caldera were traditionally considered to be the sacred home of the volcano goddess Pele. Hawaii's visited the crater to offer gifts to the goddess. And Pele, basically, for those, is the creator of the island. In 1790, a party of warriors, along with women and children, were caught in an unusually violent eruption, and many were killed, and others left footprints in the lava that are still visible even to today. And the first Western visitors to visit the site was English missionary William Ellis and American Asa III when they visited Kilauea in 1823. Ellis, at the time, wrote of his reaction to the first sight of the erupting volcano. He said, "A spectacle sublime and even appalling presented itself before us. We stopped in trouble, it stopped in awe for some of us rendered as mute. And like statues, we stood fixed to the spot with our eyes riveted below." The volcano then became a tourist attraction in the 1840s, and local businessmen such as Benjamin Pitman and George Lycurgus ran a series of hotels around the rim. Volcano House is the only hotel and restaurant located within the borders of the national park, still present even today. Of course, Lauren A. Thurston, the grandson of the missionary Asa Thurston, was one of the driving forces behind the establishment of the national park after investing in the hotel from 1891 to 1904. After several attempts, legislation was introduced by the delegate Jonah Kuheo Kalanaya Ode, finally passed to create the national park. House Resolution 9525 was signed by Woodrow Wilson on August 1st, 1916. And Hawaii National Park became our 11th national park. And it's actually the first national park to be in a U.S. territory. So, pretty cool stuff. So, we're going to climb up, of course. So, pretty special that this became the first national park in a U.S. territory. Then, about 1929, Dwight D. Howard Hitchcock made an oil painting of Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of fire, lightning, and wind, and it became a well-known art for the national park. And his son Harvey donated it to the national park, where it was displayed in the visitor center from 1966 to 2005 as well. However, this painting, by the way, was replaced in 2005 with a judging panel from Native Hawaiian elders, and the Hitchcock painting was replaced by Johnston. Of course, in recent events, in March 19, 2008, there was a small explosion in Halea Umu, the first explosive event since 1924, the first eruption of the Kilauea cauldron since 1982. As of 2002, most of the park still remains open, although some road segments, trails, and the Jagger Museum Hawaii Volcano Observatory remain closed into present day. So that basically covers a bit about this national park's history. We're finally going to climb up 14,000 feet, of course. That's because we're finally covering our target here. Okay, so that covers a bit about the history of the national park. Again, there isn't really too much to go off of. So that is where we're going to do this morning. So we're going to head to our first landing stop of the day. Our first landing of the day, and we're going to visit the tallest, highest point in all of Hawaii, in fact. Mauna Kea. Well, we're going to be climbing up to here. Should be arriving at the volcano pretty shortly. So we're going to be visiting Mauna Kea today. So Mauna Kea, by the way, is the highest point in all of Hawaii, and the name actually translates to White Mountain. This is actually a dormant volcano on the island of Hawaii. Its peak is 13,803 feet above sea level, or 4,207 meters. It's the highest point in Hawaii, and the island with the second highest point in the world. Only one higher is actually in New Guinea. Is on the island of New Guinea. The peak is about 38 meters higher than Mauna Loa, its more massive neighbor, and it's unusually topographically prominent for its height. Its prominence from sea level is about 15th highest in the world according to mountains. However, its prominence from under the ocean is actually higher than higher than Mount Everest, 33,481 feet. This dry prominence is greater than Everest's height above sea level. This dry prominence is greater than that of even Everest's height above sea level. That's why some authorities say that this is actually the tallest mountain in the world from its underwater base. In terms of topographic isolation, it's 8th in the world. This volcano, however, is only about 1 million years old, and it does pass through its most active shield stage of its life hundreds of thousands of years ago. Plate volcanism has given it a much rougher appearance compared to its neighbors due to the construction of cinder cones. And the volcano last erupted between 6,000 to 4,000 years ago. However, this volcano is special because in the Hawaiian faith, in the religion, the peaks of this island are very sacred, and in ancient law allowed only high-ranking people to visit the peak. Ancient Hawaiians living on the slopes relied on its forests for food and quarried the volcanic glacial basalts for tool production. When Europeans arrived, they brought cattle, sheep, and game animals, many of which became feral and damaged the ecological balance of the volcanoes. With its high elevation, dry environment, and stable airflow, this is one of the best sites in the world for astronomical observation. Ever since the creation of an access road in 1964, 13 telescopes have been funded by 11 countries at the summit. And the observatories are used for scientific research across the electromagnetic spectrum and comprise the largest such facility in the world. However, those observatories also create a rift with the native Hawaiians because, as you guys all know, the volcanic peaks are considered to be sacred. Obviously creates a rift because, well, and it's still a topic of debate even today. So yes, we do have to be careful about that as well. So yes, there are been some major observations about the peak. Pretty cool stuff, of course. We'll be landing at the observatory once we get to Mauna Kea. So, pretty cool stuff about the volcano. Some other things about Mauna Kea, of course. There have been people who've made ascents to the Mauna Kea. The first recorded ascent in the day, Joseph F. Goodrich in 1823. Queen Emma of Hawaii actually traveled the peak during a competition for World Ruling Chief of Hawaii. And believe it or not, In February 2021, Victor Vescovo and Clifford Capono actually became the first people to make the ascent of Mauna Kea from its subaerial base, 16,785 feet below sea level. First using the submersible limiting factor, then ocean kayaks from above the mountain base 27 miles from shoreline, and then bicycles to a camp about 9,000 feet, and then they walked up the 13,000-foot summit. That's right, they traveled 30,000 feet from underneath the ocean. You want to know how insane that is? That's absolutely nuts. It's crazy. Absolutely insane. Be a really brave person to have to make an ascent like that. Yes, this is Mauna Kea. And yes, we'll land the observatory and we'll get a good sightline of the dormant volcano. Of course, some of the interesting things about the plants and animals that lived in this volcano. In the alpine environment, you can find plant species like uh, Maele, which is a native flowering plant. The common dandelions found here. Anthrax sweet vertical grass found here as well. One notable species is the Mauna Kea silver sword, which is actually a highly endangered endemic plant species. Of course, there's also a forest zone dominated by native trees of Nio and Mamene. However, a lot of grazing has been a big problem, and lower observation too. But Mauna Kea is still a very important part, and people like to go up to the volcano itself. So pretty cool stuff. So here it is, the observatories here at the volcano. We'll be making a landing right. I think I'm going to make a landing right over here. We can still get a good look at the observatories, and we can still get a good look at the volcano itself. So we're going to go ahead and make our first landing of the day here. This place really comes alive during at night. There and make the okay. Not my best landing. We'll park right here. But here it is, guys. The Hawaii. This is Mauna Kea. We're actually here at around the summit. So as you can tell, this is a really good view of this is Mauna Loa in the front of us. Is Mauna Loa from over here. Now from the back here and from here are the observatories here These are the observatories that people use for astronomy. So that is some of the observatory stuff. And some of the stuff here, from what I've read, they have mobile telescopes, including a 10 point. They had a 10-point-meter telescope that was closed in 2015. And the reason why they picked this mountain was because of its dark skies from the lack of light pollution, good astronomical seeing due to low atmospheric turbulence, low humidity, and high elevation. Made it a very big place. Of course, obviously, there's been a lot of controversy with this. So we're going to take some pictures here, and with the drone, of course. We're going to go ahead and get going. So let's go ahead and take off here from Mauna Kea. And we're off. Say goodbye to some of the observatories here. Telescopes, of course. We're going to head our way down. So we're going to go descend down from here. We're going to descend down over to Hilo International, which is actually technically the largest city on the Big Island, Hilo. So we're going to go ahead and make that our very first stop today. Nice, Devil Dude. Sorry about if I wasn't reading your post, Devil Dude. 6 out of 7, that's great. We're going to go ahead and fly our way down Hilo International Airport. Our first stop. So we're going to make our way down Hilo. We're going to go ahead down to Hilo, of course. So I hope you guys are enjoying this flight. This has been absolutely gorgeous, by the way. we're going to make sure we get through this forward a bit more. So we're going to continue moving upwards. So we're going to make our way over to the airport very soon. Take a bit of a break, and then we'll make our way upwards to our first volcano of the series, and that being Kilauea, our first volcano of the two of the national park. Lots of really fun stuff going on too. So oh yeah, so yeah, one of them did have an eruption. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Another volcano, Kilauea. Yeah. Thankfully, it's not erupting here in the simulator, thankfully, but yes, it's erupted again. Thank you for pointing that out. Kilauea has erupted it again. Now, of course, we will not. Of course, we won't be getting near this volcano when we go to the volcano later in the flight. But we're going to be talking plenty about this volcano. Oh yeah, an interesting thing about Victor Vescovo, I actually looked about it. Apparently, he did the Explorers Grand Slam, reached the North and South Poles, by the way. And he climbed the 7 summits, which basically, those who don't know, are the the highest mountains in each of the 7 continents. Those be Everest, Aconcagua, Denali, Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, Vinson, and either a Puncak Java in New Guinea or Mount Kujiko in Australia. And he also did another expedition, the deepest points of all 5 oceans, using the F5 Deep expeditions of 2018. And he was actually a U.S. Navy Reserve intelligence officer. Yeah, he went through the deepest points of the Atlantic, Southern Ocean, Indian Ocean, the Marianas Trench, and all that. He went through all of it too. So he broke all sorts of records too. That's a really interesting story too. Such an interesting guy. The fact that he did all this. A lot of courage. Here we go, guys. I think our airport is ahead of us here. Of course, we'll make our first stop. So, I hope you guys enjoy the stream, of course. Flow just got re-released back into MSFS 2024. As I said, I'm going to hold off on getting Flow. I'm probably going to get Flow when I get my new PC built. It's going to be a pain to move everything. So, here we go, guys. We'll stop right here for just a minute if you guys want to join. Yeah, Parallel Fortune definitely is really great. Very interested to check out Flow again once we do it. Stop right here for just a bit if you guys want to take the time and just chill. So we'll be taking a bit of a break. We're going to be visiting Kilauea first. We'll have a stop at Mauna Loa Lookout, and we'll also have a stop at the Kilauea Overlook too. We'll have a stop around these areas too. We have plenty of stops, so we're gonna go ahead and prepare for our next leg. We'll get the flying for our next leg of the flight. Head. Head and yeah, I love this point a lot. The Jordan is a ton of fun. Sure. There we go. Off we go. So we're gonna visit the volcano Kilauea. So let's talk a bit about the normal slides here at this park. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the historic places at the national park. There are several historic sites. Places here at the park are in the Natural Historic Places. They include the 1790 footprints that came from an eruption in 1790. Anahahu Beach, Anahahu Ranch, which was actually new land, was once a cow ranch. However, it was used to be a cattle ranch raising beef. However, when a tsunami happened in 1946, he actually raised indigenous, endangered Nene geese, and possibly was the one who saved it from extinction. And of course, this area then became part of the national park. You have Anapo Trail, which was built from 1916, was the primary route to the summit. Kilauea Crater. And you have the Punako Historic District, which is an archaeological district found around this area. Volcano House, which was built on the edge of the volcano Kilauea. And the Wilkes Campsite are all major places around the national park. And in terms of the visitor centers and museums, the main visitor center is located just within the park entrance, and nearby is the Volcano Art Center located in the Volcano House Hotel. And it houses displays in an art gallery. There used to be the Thomas A. Jaggar Museum, however, it's closed due to damage from the 2018 volcanic eruption events. It was actually named after Thomas Jaggar, the first director of the Hawaii Volcano Observatory. So that is pretty much the slides covering the park until we get to the volcanoes. So we're gonna climb up and make our way over to the Mauna Loa Lookout. I'll stop here at the lookout. We can see Mauna Loa from a bit of a different angle. So I've been looking at some of the scores today for some of the other games today. Elche beat in Spain. Elche beat Girona 3-0 earlier. In Ligue 1, the French league, Angers just beat Nice 1-0 to the bitterness of all the Nice fans. In the Netherlands, the Dutch league, NEC Volendam just NEC Ingemingen just beat Volendam 3-2, and NEC's continue to have another great season in the Dutch league, Eredivisie. Continuing their great start of the season. Honestly, they're actually in the top 3 this in the standings behind PSV and Feyenoord. Yes, they're even above Ajax, who we will be covering on next Fridays. Yeah. Next Friday is going to be our next game day stream. We'll be doing the Klassiker, Ajax Feyenoord. Even though really the top team in the standings this year has been PSV, but we'll be covering we'll fly over PSV for a bit as well. So I bet all you Dutch fans would be quite happy to see that all 3 of them get a major. So we have plenty of coverage. Yeah, PSV should be pretty interesting to cover. Yeah, I got plenty of slides. I know, Devil, you're fine. I believe you're a Feyenoord supporter. I got plenty of information about Feyenoord. So Mauna Loa is going to be where we're going to be. So we're going to find the overlook and make a landing there. Visit to the lookout. Go. And this lookout will give us a view of Mauna Loa. Give a view to the Kilauea volcanoes. We're going to have a stop here. Of course. So this is Mauna Loa. That is definitely the much more physically opposing peak compared to Mauna Kea. Right. Mauna Loa is right. So actually, we'll just fly over the Lookout. We're going to head our way closer to Kilauea, where we're going to be landing at the Overlook, actually. But we'll be down. So, beautiful sightlines here today for this tour. So, of course, I wonder what's going on for the rest of the week for next week. I know Allison's going to be back with one of her streams, of course. So one of the big things going on here yesterday, there was also a couple others that happened yesterday too. In terms of soccer, of course, Inter Miami won the MLS Cup, so yes, Lionel Messi wins a cup for his MLS career. Arsenal actually lost. Arsenal lost again. This time they lost to Aston Villa on a game-winning goal by Emiliano Buendia. And this loss was not good for Arsenal supporters. Only their second loss this year. And that Aston Villa, after their rough start early in the season, is now up to third place in the Premier League. I mean, Villa's been on a roll. Good for Aston Villa and its fans. Their fans. Good to see them actually succeeding. For Villa. Yeah, big win for Aston Villa. They when they needed to Premier League. Manchester City won, so they're now second. But the big one, the Leeds actually managed to get Liverpool into a draw. Another inability to win. Liverpool just can't seem to win. Which is good for me, though. Then some of the other leagues, Serie A has been pretty crazy this course. Fiorentina still haven't gotten a win all season. Fiorentina is still winless after their 14 matches. They could very well be relegated, but who knows? I think they could get relegated, but it's also likely they could still win. It's still early in the season. We still have under halfway left to go. There have been crazier comebacks from relegation before. So not that unlikely for it to happen. So we're going to be heading to the volcano Kilauea. So we're going to visit the first of our 2 volcanoes here today at the national park, Kilauea. So this volcano is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. This shield volcano is located on the southeastern shore of the island of Hawaii. This volcano is between 210,000 and 280,000 years old and grew above sea level about 100,000 years ago. Since the odds are so, it has been the most active of the 5 volcanoes that form the island and among the most active on Earth. And of course, it just erupted earlier today. So yes, the data is kind of wrong. It actually just erupted today. It's the youngest hotspot of the Hawaiian hotspot and the crater at the center of its chain. Its elevation is around 4,000 feet elevation. And most importantly, too, between 2008 to 2018, Haleakala, the pit crater located within its cauldron, was an active lava lake. And Kilauea erupted nearly continuously from events between January 1983 and April 2018. That's right, it lasted for over 4 decades of eruption. Kilauea is actually the Hawaiian word that means spewing or much spreading, which of course is quite fitting considering it is freely erupting with lava. Hence the nickname. One interesting thing about this volcano, of course, one interesting thing is that this volcano plays a big role in mountain ecology. And the first modern account of this was the English missionary William Ellis, and since its foundation, it has been a big part of studying this volcano. We're going to go ahead and make a landing here. We're going to actually stop, and we're going to make a landing here. We're going to land right into the overlook, so we can get a closer view of the volcano itself. And mainly I'm doing this to complete obstacle. Park right over here. This area is the volcano overlook here at the national park. It's actually one of the smoother. This area, by the way, this is the Yokohama parking. So we'll be. This is where I believe to be the Jackson Volcanic Center. So. That should be pretty good. Right here. Here we go, guys. Welcome to volcanic peak of Kilauea. Right here, guys. This is the Kilauea crater here at the national park. That is kind of our crater overview. Yeah, you guys can see the volcanic crater in this area. But this is Kilauea crater. And it's erupted a lot over the past years or so. One interesting thing about this volcano is despite it being a volcano, there's actually quite a few ecosystems around this area. And a lot of its southern section lies in the park. It's home to several trees, mainly Ohia lehua, which is part of the myrtle family, indigenous trees. There's also many birds that live here, mainly the indigenous Hawaiian honey creeper, the Hawaii alakihi, and a couple of other native bird species live around this area. Not too far from the crater, of course. Definitely a really cool view of the crater. We're going to go ahead and fly. We'll see more of the crater from the air, and let's see what it looks like from the actually off our parking brake. Over. Camera. Up, up, up in the air. That is the entirety of the crater. Yeah, there's the volcano. All the way down here is Kilauea. That is all the way down over here. The volcano itself. This here is the volcano itself. That's what it looks like from the air, by the way. To our left here is the Kilauea crater. Kilauea Iki crater. That is. We're not going to land in this, obviously, even though it doesn't show in the sim. I'm not landing in an active volcano field. Not paying me enough. Just going to fly over it briefly. Looks really cool in the sim. Looks pretty cool. I'm going to continue on west. This way. Really cool stuff, guys. I really enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. That is the Kilauea crater. How cool is that? Continue on this way to our next stop here at Hotel India 25. Continue on westward. Make that our second stop of the head and continue forward. Guys, we only have one more leg left to go in today's flight after this. Excuse me. One interesting native fauna of Hawaii is the state bird of Hawaii, and that is the nene. Its species name is known as Bronta vicinus, or known as the Hawaiian goose. It was endemic here in the Hawaiian Islands and is found exclusively on the islands of Maui, Kauai, Molokai, and Hawaii. Its Hawaiian name comes from its soft call. This animal was thought to be evolved from the Canadian goose, which mostly arrived here around 500,000 years ago after Hawaii was formed. This goose is around 3 to 5 pounds. Males average around 3 to 6 pounds. The males are bigger than the females, and they mainly inhabit shrublands, grassland, coastal dunes, and lava plains. The nene at one time could be found in multiple islands, including Hawaii, Maui, Kauai, and more. However, today is much more restricted to only 4 of the islands. Reason being is, of course, the humans introduced small Indian mongooses, pigs, and feral cats. However, it reduced at one point reduced the population to only 30 birds. Thankfully, though, thanks to captivity, as well as the culling of many feral animals, was able to bring the population up significantly. In fact, so much so, it's no longer a threatened species at all. As a result, it's not really as threatened anymore. That being said, people still have to keep. So we're going to continue on, move down Hotel India 25 for our second to last stop of the flight. Doing really good here with the time. We're just 71 nautical miles from our final stop, back at Kona. So we're going to be here we go, guys. We're about to make our landing here very shortly. Make our landing. Then after that, we'll go up and climb up the other major volcano here at Mauna Loa. We'll definitely take some landing. Go to the Oscar. doing really good, guys. Here we go. We're going to make our second landing here. It'd be a pretty smooth landing, of course. We'll be landing here for a little bit and get ready to prepare for the next leg in about a couple minutes. Get ready to go very shortly. we're going to go ahead and prepare for the third and final leg of the trip. We're going to make our way over to Mauna Loa. So we're going to be climbing pretty high up. I think we're going to climb around 13,000 feet. And 300 and... There you go. And we're about to... We're going to climb up to Mauna Loa today. So Mauna Loa is going to be our last stop here for today. Now this peak are the two volcanoes here at the national park. It's 13,679 feet above sea level. This volcano is one of the 5 volcanoes that formed the island of Hawaii. And it's actually Earth's largest active volcano, believe it or not. The largest active volcano in mass and volume. And historically was considered to be the largest volcano on Earth until they discovered the submarine mountain of Tamu Mastiff in the mid-Pacific Ocean. It's actually larger. This is a shield volcano with relatively gentle slopes and an estimated volume of 18,000 cubic miles. And although its peak is about 125 feet lower than that of Mauna Kea. And it has actually been active, unlike Mauna Kea, it has been erupting. It has been erupting for the last 700,000 years and may have emerged above sea level around 400,000 years ago. 7-day rocks are dating back to 470,000 years old. The most recent eruption here at Mauna Loa occurred in 2002, 2022, and November 27th, and in December 13th. First eruptions in 1984. No recent eruptions have caused fatalities, but eruptions in 1926 and 1950 destroyed villages. And the city of Hilo was partially built on lava flows from the 19th century. Because of the potential hazard it does on population centers, Mauna Loa is part of the Decades Volcanoes program, which encourages studies in the world's most dangerous volcanoes. There are observatories around this area too, around the park, mainly around Mauna Loa Solar Observatory and the Mauna Loa Observatory itself, both located near the mountain summit. It is also a holy mountain, of course. In Hawaiian practices hold that the 5 volcanic peaks they honor sacred. And this particular volcano in particular is actually considered most sacred of the 5 volcanoes. But what mythology today consists of those oral accounts century first compiled in the 19th century. Many of the stories agree that the Hawaiian volcano goddess, Pele, resides in the Halema Umanu on Kilauea. However, a few place her home at Mauna Loa's summit, Ultra at Moku Anawea. And her mythos generates association with all the volcanic activity on the island. There have been a couple of people trying to summit the peaks, but the first successful attempt to reach the summit on his third attempt was Archibald Menzies. He became Scottish botanist and naturalist, became the first person to reach the summit of the mountain. So, some pretty important stuff here with them. Of course, Mauna Loa also is has some interesting stuff here too. Today, of course, this area is part of the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So we'll be going through having pretty interesting stuff here about this volcano. We're going to be climbing to 14,000 feet. We're continuing to climb up, of course, to the volcano. So we're going to be landing here at the summit, actually. And we'll get a great view of the volcano from there. Of course, we're not going to get into the volcano. Guess what? That would be extremely dangerous. Don't want to get flame burned. Here we go. We're going to turn right here very shortly. We're going to go 16. We're going to turn. So here we are, guys. We're about to reach our volcano course. And the prize jewel of the national park itself. Well, we're finally here at the volcano, guys. Go ahead and head over to the summit. We'll make a land. So this is Mauna Loa. Like, so this here is Mauna Loa. Here's a picture. We're gonna land here at the summit. Right over here. There's also an observatory around here we'll also pay a visit. Maybe fly over here, but we're gonna land at the summit. So here it is, guys. Mauna Loa. We're right in the summit. Look how crazy this is. You know. Just look at the state of that, guys. That's actually nuts. Absolutely crazy. Just the view of this volcano. Absolutely crazy. By the way, if you want to look more into all this, I have a Discord here if you guys are interested in checking out. Here's my Discord. Okay? You guys can have all my pictures. And yeah, not far over here is Mauna Kea, which we see right in this area here is Mauna Kea. Look at this. Crazy. Absolutely crazy for sure. But yeah, that is our volcano. So let's get back into our plane, of course. And we say goodbye to Mauna Loa. We're off. So down over here below us, it is the Mauna Loa Observatory. Here's the observatory, and speaking of which, this will actually give us a really good shot at Mauna Kea right ahead of us. That'll be a shot. Here is a beautiful shot of Mauna Kea. There is the observatory below. This is the Mauna Loa Observatory. There's another one they put down the islands. Again, not very much light pollution. Here we go, guys. We're going to be flying down. Here we go. Flying down over to Kona. I hope you guys enjoyed this flight. This was an absolute gorgeous flight to the Hawaiian volcanoes. Absolute stunning area here in Hawaii. Of course, our very next national park is another volcanic park. Actually, Lassen Volcanic National Park in Northern California. I'm going to go ahead and So here we go. So that's going to be coming up next week for our streaming stuff. So very excited to check out the next couple of national parks. Our next national park in our series, by the way, we're going to actually climb up a bit. Whoops. We're going to climb up and then climb back down a bit. We're going to climb back up and climb back. Yeah, I posted the pictures already in the Discord. Our national parks. By a volcano. Absolutely stunning park. Hey, Planet Neutral, good to see you. Hello, Planet Neutral. I hope you're having a great morning, my dude. Here's a shout out for you, Planet Neutral. If you guys don't know about him, great channel from my local area. Great streams. I love his River Run stuff. Been a big fan of his for a long time. I'm hoping you're having a good day. And he just does some great general aviation stuff with karaoke too. So if you wanted to do some late night flight simulating, I think there are not many better than him. So definitely check out my good friend Planet Neutral. One of the longest supporting guys. So we just well past Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. We're about to enter into our last stop in Kona. Yeah, we're about to end. We're not too far away from ending this flight. We actually flew to Mauna Kea first. We got to land here and talk about the Mauna Kea. Then from there we went through Hilo, and then we visited Mauna Loa. We then visited the volcano of Kilauea, and then we went past there. Then we climbed up to Mauna Loa. So we checked out the beautiful national park. The volcanoes were really cool. I didn't land in the volcanoes, thankfully, because I'm not stupid enough to land in the middle of the volcano field. Here we go, our final landing here in Kona. So about to one last go. 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 Final landing. we go. Made it to Kona. We're back at their airport, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming here this morning. Absolutely enjoyable flight. Stop right here and turn everything off. So, guys, this has been a really fun flight. Beautiful airport, and the national park is absolutely gorgeous. Definitely make the trip up to Hawaii if you can get the opportunity. That is, the only issue is flying there will be quite expensive. So we'll be back on Friday. We'll be doing our stream in the Netherlands. We'll be watching Feyenoord and Ajax and Feyenoord battling against each other for the big Dutch Classic. That'll be our next game day flight. And our next national park stream will be a very special one, as we will be checking out Lassen Volcanic National Park. So, guys, I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you guys have fun. So, take care, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Goodbye, everyone, and see you all soon.